Hello and welcome to Warcraft Daily for today, the 7th of December 2013. So, today's show we have some blue posts and tweets and stuff like that, and then I'll round it off with some Q&A things. Didn't actually have a lot of time to prepare this because, well, I woke up at 4:30 in the evening because spent the entire of yesterday working until about 7 a.m. and yeah, university's busy, but the good news is that all this bullshit will be kind of cleared up within, I'd say, the next week. And I can really just get back to normal with YouTube. It's kind of pissing me off how the channel has sort of suffered a little bit. I mean, okay, it's still daily, but I don't know. I'm considering just doing some Hearthstone videos and things like that, just to tide me over for the week. Of course, WoW Daily will always, of course, still be a thing. But anyway, let's jump into the actual news for the day. So first of all, they said that a lot of work will be done in crafting, and that while they don't have anything to announce yet, they will be announcing things at some point. Now, what does this mean? Well, first of all, I think there will be a bit of an overall streamlining of just the various crafting things. I mean, when you look at a crafting profession, like, say, enchanting or jewel crafting, it's absolutely a goddamn mess. So let's talk about some of the things we probably know. They're reducing the amount of enchant slots, meaning that there will probably be fewer categories of enchants that you can get. There may be more diversity in terms of the enchants for a particular slot, but overall I think this will be a little bit of a simplification, and I think that's really okay. They probably won't change the profitability of enchanting that much. Also, for jewel crafting, I'm pretty sure that primary stats are no longer a thing that can be on gems, so I suppose that gets rid of a whole sort of slew of them. But a lot more gems are being... well, a lot more secondary stats are being added, so it really just depends what sort of secondary stats that we actually see on gems. Of course, gem sockets will also be more of a rare thing than they are at the minute, so the perhaps I'd say the price and like the demand will be a little bit different. There'll be a lower supply and a lower demand, so I think they'll be a rather expensive, more kind of luxury item, because like gear will only have bonus, I think like a bonus socket or something like that, 10% of the time. So yeah, I think that's one thing that they'll probably do, just the overall reduction in the amount of bloat that there is. I think they're definitely going to streamline leveling, because leveling right now is just an absolute bastard of a thing. It's really damn annoying. They do have catch-ups in for things like mining, and I think it's mining and herbalism, so perhaps if they can have similar catch-ups for the other crafting professions, I think that would be really nice, because leveling crafting professions is such a pain in the arse. You have so many different things to do, so many different recipes, and then there's sometimes just breakpoints where, when, say, like the Cataclysm content, which you get through very, very quickly right now. Well, the problem is, people get through this Cataclysm content, they don't do much gathering, and then you have things like, what's it called, Illusionary Dust, or, whatever the Cataclysm enchanting dust is. That's going for 600 to 700 gold a stack in some servers. So it's really causing just ridiculous things when it comes to leveling up professions. So yeah, I do think that's absolutely something that should be fixed. Next, they said that they are planning on making sure that flight paths make sense in Warlords of Draenor, and they encourage players to report any flight paths, just in the normal game anyway, that they don't like or that are, I suppose, problems. I guess that there's so many different places you can go from and go to. There's just a lot of different variables there, that sometimes you will have specific cases where it just makes no sense. If something like that does happen, I guess if you could just, I don't know, fire off a, is there even bug reports in the game? I don't know if there's that, but hell, just fire something off to, like, Fortherio or Zarim or one of the community managers on Twitter and let them know. Because, yeah, flight paths are a bit of a bastard sometimes. Now, of course, we know there'll be no flying until patch 6.1, which means that the flight paths in Draenor are going to have to be very solid. They know this, and they know that if they take away flying and then don't have flight paths that make sense, they know that'll cause a bit of a shitstorm. So, honestly, I'd be very surprised if they let any issues happen there. Now, also, finally, there was apparently some people who were confused about looking for dungeon being removed in favor of the group finder. No, that's not the case. I'm just really saying this in case anyone in the audience was confused about that. No, that's not happening. LFD will be there as normal, but the group finder will just be an additional tool for people who want to try to find some more group content to do. So I think that's all fair enough, and the new LFD tool should be quite fantastic. Now, next, let's move on to Twitter. This is actually all from Celestian. He said that they're not sure if sockets will only be a bonus, but the majority of them definitely will. So this is interesting. I think I'm okay with sockets being on some bits of gear if it's rare, because then that makes that gear a little bit more unique and special and interesting. So I think that's okay, although of course balancing that would be quite hard, since sockets, well at least the bonus sockets won't be counting towards the itemization budget of the gear. So it'll be a bit of an odd thing to balance, but I'm okay with, say, there being a ring which has a socket, and that's the special thing that that ring does. Perhaps overall it's not as good for stats, but maybe that extra customization in that you can put whatever secondary stat gem you want into that socket, perhaps that's the trade-off. I'm not really too sure how it'll work out, but I think the majority of sockets should definitely just still be the random thing that they're going to be. That makes sense, it's a bit more sort of variation to gear, keeps things interesting, so overall I think that's quite a good thing. Next, they said that snapshotting on dots is going to be removed because the skill cap was too high and it was therefore being handled by add-ons, and there's a planned dev water cooler and a whole bunch of Warlord stuff, but right now, a bunch of Warlord stuff, and it will include this. If you don't know what dot snapshotting is, some dots, when you cast them, they take a snapshot of your current stats, and then that's the numbers that are applied to the dot over its duration, and that's fine if you're skilled, you know, you're combining your dots with trinket procs and things like that. But the problem is this is really just being handled by add-ons, so they're not convinced that it's adding much gameplay. Of course, I don't think it's a major issue, really. Maybe they can tone it down a little bit, but I think it's always nice to have these high skill cap moves and things that you can pull off, because I think having a little bit more of a ceiling on the skill cap, and well, at least that being higher, means that people always feel like they have something to improve, somewhere to go. If you know what I mean, and I think that's really important for just keeping the combat fresh and interesting. If if you can, say, optimize your add-on setup or start reading up on, well, how can I benefit from DPS from dot snapshotting? If you can read up on those things and then see real-world results, that that feels good, you know, you've really progressed. So that will be gone. I don't think it was a massive issue, but I don't really think we'll see a lot of fallout because of its removal. So honestly, I don't really care either way. Yeah. Now next, and the final thing is they said they were making Warlord stats being a little bit more closer in value. Now this, I think the main example was, say with haste, right? What happens is you hit very high haste amounts, and what this means is your global cooldown capping yourself, meaning that additional haste is actually completely useless. They said they're going to be keeping an eye on things like that, and trying to make the different secondary stats a little bit more balanced than they are at the minute. There's some classes which are just outright skipping some stats, and some that are not. It's a little bit of an annoying disparity, so I suppose it's probably a good thing that they're going to clear that up. Now finally, let's jump into some audience Q&A. The first one is from someone, and I don't have their name on my text document, so sorry someone, but hey, you'll know who you are. The question is, do you think that Rathian could be the last boss in Warlords of Draenor? Maybe he corrupted Kairos to go back to Draenor with Garrosh, so that the Iron Horde can stand against the Burning Legion. So first of all, a bit of a lore recap. Rathian, his whole thing in Pandaria was that he wanted the Horde to be annihilated. Initially, he was hedging his bets with the Horde being successful and annihilating the Alliance, meaning that the entire of the planet was unified against the Legion, who he knows are coming. Of course, when Garrosh started going a little bit apeshit crazy, he then sort of thought to himself, yeah, I think the Alliance are a better sort of camp to throw my eggs at. That doesn't make any sense, but whatever. He decided to go with the Alliance, and he was really pissed off when Varian decided, no, I'm not going to wipe the Horde out. I'll just say, be honourable, we won't crush you, let's be cool. And that's what happened at the end of Pandaria, meaning that Rathian took a giant hissy fit, being really pissed off at the king and all that stuff. So yeah, now he's a little bit angry. And we know that Garrosh goes back via Kairos, and we know that Rathian was chatting a lot to Kairos. We also know that Rathian didn't really learn kind of one of the big lessons of Pandaria, is that we're all stronger because of each other, not despite of each other. So if there was no Horde, then the Alliance just wouldn't have had much of a challenge to raise to. Therefore, when the Legion do come, they just fucking wipe us out. He didn't really get that. He just, I guess, wanted the whole planet to be unified. But I think the unification would just make it a little bit weaker, but he doesn't understand that. Anyway, so the thing is, and the major point is that he still does not understand that. He's been hanging out with Kairos a lot. We know that Kairos is the guy who's responsible, at least in the sort of magic scheme of things, for getting Garrosh back to Draenor, so is it then possible that it's Rathian who gets this whole ball rolling? Well, I think that I'm not convinced that Rathian is really the guy who told Kairos to do this. Rathian is an uncorrupted black dragon, all he cares about is the planet itself, so I don't think he would have major qualms with the Iron Horde, this whole thing, and perhaps actually, yeah, maybe he is just that pissed off with what happened at the end of Mists that he is willing to have this Iron Horde thing happen, but he was so kind of against the current... I guess the reason he was so against what Garrosh was doing is because it led to the rebellion happening and all that. So perhaps Rathian would be perfectly happy with his giant Iron Horde coming in, wiping the floor with all us idiots, and then just being there and being extremely powerful because they'd be fully unified under a leader, they wouldn't be subservient to the Legion like the old Orcs were, and they would also have the benefit of all of Garrosh's badass technology that he brought back with him. That could happen, I suppose, but the thing is, what Blizzard have said is that Rathian is not going to play a very major role at all, and they even said that he will perhaps make a cameo in the expansion. Essentially, they're retiring his character for this expansion, and they'll probably bring him back in the next one. Now that means, like, that kind of, I think means that they said, no, he's not going to be the last boss, or he's not going to be a major element. Also, Rathian just isn't powerful enough to be the last boss in Warlords. He's like 2 years old. In, like, I don't know, dragon years, whatever. So, like, when he turns into a dragon, he's just a tiny little whelp. You know, he's bigger as a human than he is as a freaking dragon, and if you're a dragon, then that's not good. So, yeah, there's no way he has the power to be a final boss. I'm pretty sure us players could quite easily kill him. Like, he's got strong magic, but he's not as powerful as his dad, or his auntie, or his uncle. Of course, the three of them are all dead, but there's no way he's going to be more powerful than Deathwing. So, yeah, the guy's not going to be a boss. I'm sure he has, in some way, to do with all this shit that's going on, but we'll just have to wait until we find out some more lore stuff. Anyway, that's it for this show. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.